but I don't think that it'll ultimately change anything. But I think that if more people keep speaking up, like we've done, then I think eventually things might start to change because they'll be forced to change them if so many people keep speaking up. And I think even if they haven't actually changed anything or taken action yet, it's still, even if they don't think it, it's gotten into their head a little bit about how people don't always agree with them. And I think that will help.
I was actually just listening to it prior to jumping on here just to refresh myself, and the amount of crowd noise.
Yeah.
It sounded like you're in a stadium and people were just reacting left and right. You had oohs and ahs and cheering and you got every kind of reaction. Hey guys, welcome to Minnesota Uncensored, brought to you by Minnesota Senate 57 District GOP. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. Our podcast is now live on Spotify, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. Hopefully soon on iTunes. Takes a little while to get approved by the folks over at Apple. Anyways, guys, Minnesota Uncensored. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube and on Twitter, Senate District 57 GOP. Well, this is the perfect storm. We talked the last session about critical race theory, how it's being implemented in our district, in our schools, and pretty much all across America. It's probably, when you hear critical race theory, I'd say a majority of Americans are like, oh my goodness, that is a hot button issue right now, whether it be in your school board, whether it just be in the culture as a whole. So this is such a main talking point out there in the political spectrum, in the cultural spectrum, that it gets a lot of ears going right now. Today, I have a gentleman on with me, Brad Taylor, and so a little background. Me and him actually spoke. I spoke before him. He was immediately after me at the last District 196 school board meeting this past Monday. My speech is probably pretty good, but Brad, he has gone absolutely viral. I just mentioned he was on Charlie Kirk. He's on The Blaze. He was on the White House Brief. He was sharing on Teachers for Trump, which is a big, they share a lot of stuff from school boards on Instagram. So he's just going all over. You'll probably see him. Alpha News is going to do an article on him. I heard Fox News might be eventually trying to talk to him. So, Brad, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
So, are you so excited autographs? Is that?
No, I'm trying to stay humble, but it's very crazy about how viral it's went. Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of speechless.
Honestly, shouldn't be surprising because you see about, every week or two, you see 2 or 3 speeches go viral, and it's usually individuals that maybe don't fit the narrative of who should be speaking, or it's someone getting really animated, or in your case, it is a child you're not a child, you're a young man. You are a high school student were a high school student at Rosemont High School, so you have a little more influence and you have a little more of an objective perspective of exactly what's happening. And that's what I think made your speech so poignant. I thought that's what it made it so everyone really get their attention attached. You could hear, I was actually just listening to it prior to jumping on here just to refresh myself, and the amount of crowd noise.
Yeah.
It sounded like you're in a stadium and people were just reacting left and right. You had oohs and ahs and cheering and you got every kind of reaction, and it's a 5-minute speech. You only get 5 minutes, then you get your mic cut off, as other people did during the last school board. But it was very effective. So I guess first and foremost, what brought you to talk on Monday? What was kind of what brought you to that place? What brought you like, hey, I want to speak on this issue in front of the school board?
Well, I'd seen my mom speak at it the month before, and she spoke about more about masks. And I mean, she's not like as outgoing as me, so I thought, well, if she can do it, I should be able to do it. And then I felt like me just going in RHS and talking about my beliefs wasn't enough for people to understand what was really going on, So when we went to that the what's it called, Patriot Moms meeting, and they said, Brad, you should speak. I was like, yeah, maybe I should. And then I just, I thought, I was hoping people, I didn't think it would, what would happen, but I was hoping people would be able to see it and understand from a kid's perspective what's actually going on inside the schools. And I think we have accomplished that.
Yeah, very much so. Some things, subjects that you personally touched on, where you talked about your meeting with the administration, where they kind of dismissed you by claiming that you had it pretty good, quote unquote, as a white person. You talked about your civics teacher, um, comparing the political parties, and obviously raising up the beliefs of the Democratic Party, demeaning the beliefs of the Republican Party. This is a Republican-sponsored podcast. We don't like that. You just talked about the overall tenor of how the school was kind of dividing people on racial lines. And if you were the quote unquote, as critical race theory likes to put it, the oppressed versus the oppressor, if you were, by their belief, the oppressed class, you were pretty demonized in the school. Just talk a little bit about your experience over the past year and just how you felt on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were lots of subtle signs that you'd see in the school. There were they're just the overall demeanor of teachers when they'd speak about certain topics, or the reluctance to like say both sides of an argument. But then there were the more like big things that you can notice, like well, June was Pride Month, so the school they had all the kids draw with chalk on the sidewalk a bunch of like gay flags and stuff. So right when you walk in, you're seeing that. And then, I mean, the mask helped and didn't help because you couldn't really see people's expressions as much, but it just gave it that controlling feeling. And then there were the signs, the political yard signs that people would hang up in their rooms. And like I said in my speech, that one incident with a yard sign ultimately led me to speak and leave RHS. But yeah, things like that. Or teachers will have like signs that say safe space for all in their room or hanging outside their door. And it's almost like that they're trying to like, it just didn't feel like, it felt like I would look out for the rooms that didn't have a safe space sticker and think, oh, okay, maybe I can talk about my beliefs in this classroom. But the ones that did, it was kind of like you're in uncharted territory.
So what would be, they would try to frame as inclusive almost felt exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if you were of a particular ideology,
yeah.
A more conservative viewpoint, perhaps of Christian faith, you were kind of demonized or ostracized because of that. Mm-hmm. So when they claim equity, they actually mean when the belief system that they deem worthy of being promoted, worthy of being agreed upon, if you disagree with that in any capacity, you are the bad guy and you aren't part of the inclusive crowd. You're actually part of the exclusive crowd, which ultimately is dividing. I mean, how that is, first of all, has no business in a classroom. Should be apolitical. And I might mention my speech at the end here. That was I said, this should be not schools, school boards, school districts should be non-ideological. They should be places that people learn. They should be platforms that people learn. It should not have a political slant to it. And even what you just stated, it just sounds like if you they're going to be ideological. And if you disagree with ideology, you're going to be outcasted. You're not going to be part of the quote unquote exclusive club, let alone inclusive club. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's very well worded.
So you're, well, what do you think? Okay, so I'll just ask what you believe the direction, and this is completely subjective, and you're allowed to. Do you think you're really being listened to? Do you think the school board is really listening? Do you think like your speech really made a difference, or do you think it'll be business as usual and they really don't care?
I think for the most part it would be business as usual. I don't think that they're really gonna. I think they definitely took it into account more than if it was a adult speaking. So I think, and then the fact that it's had a lot of views, I think they'll take it into more account a little bit because they can't really just shrug it off anymore. But I don't think that it'll ultimately change anything. But I think that if more people keep speaking up, like we've done, then I think eventually things might start to change because they'll be forced to change them if so many people keep speaking up. And I think even if they haven't actually changed anything or taken action yet, it's still, even if they don't think it, it's gotten into their head a little bit about how people don't always agree with them. And I think that will help.
Yeah, for one, I definitely see that. And two, I think maybe more than anything, it just brings so much attention to what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are going to really go out and vote for school board this year,
Yep.
which you don't normally see. And I think you'll also see when the next big election cycle comes around, when people run on this issue that they're against this kind of indoctrination, I think it's going to probably help better candidates get in on the state, which is very important. State levels where we really need to worry about, and on the federal level to be able to kind of like push back and be able to get in individuals that are going to actually fight this kind of indoctrination, and the playing field won't be so slanted, and it won't be so. It's such. I just feel, and you seem to confirm, it just seems so like. I'll just ask straight up: the amount of individuals that are teachers, administrators at Rosemont High School, what percentage would you feel comfortable saying, I'm conservative, I'm a Christian, I believe in conservative values, I believe that our Constitution was good, I believe our society was founded on good principles? What percentage would you feel really comfortable saying that, and you'd have someone agree with you for the most part on?
I mean, I would feel comfortable with most of them because I don't care what they think, but I think that only probably about, I mean, maybe, I don't know. There's been a couple teachers that I know for sure, probably 5% that actually would agree with me. Probably like 20 that would just say, okay, whatever, it's your beliefs. But for the most part, they would try to flip stuff around. Or
So you,
maybe not in that moment, but they would then target me during class.
so you would argue that about 75% of teachers, administrators, and leadership in Rosemont High School would pretty much, for the most part, completely disagree with your particular ideology.
Yes.
I mean, that says a lot, because Rosemont would be. I grew up in here. This would be considered a more conservative part of Minnesota, especially the greater Twin Cities. So for it to be like that around here, you can only imagine what it's like in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and closer to the cities. So yeah. I mean, that right there just honestly says a lot. Is there anything else you would personally like to add about your experiences, or what you are personally going to do? Is there anything you want to do, or you're kind of like, I wash my hands, I'm kind of done with the public school? Because as mentioned at the end of your speech, and I should bring it up to my audience, because if you want to listen to Brad's speech, it's on YouTube. It is District 196. It is the June 14th school board meeting. So if you want to watch it, he speaks there. I think it's about the 40-minute mark. I can't remember.
There's also videos that just have if you just want to see the speech, they have like 5-minute videos of it on YouTube too.
Yeah, YouTube, and I believe I've seen several on Instagram. But so he's going homeschool now. He's going to go to Liberty University, where I graduated from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I am a graduate of Liberty University. So I agree with you going there.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good to go. So what are you going to do? What is your future plans in relation to this?
I want to be like I feel like now I have this platform a little bit, and I want to take advantage of it. Even though, it's kind of risky. So I think we're going to try to create a YouTube channel for me that will have just, little videos of stuff that has happened or things I can say to other kids to help them, because I know there's a lot of kids who are dealing with the same thing that I am, but they just don't say anything. And then, just kind of taking advantage of the platform we have to make it go farther. And then so more people can see what's going on. But also, I think we're going to keep pushing the school board to change things, keep making sure that they can't just stop now, because then they're just going to shrug it off. You got to keep pushing until they eventually change something. But yeah, I'm done with RHS as a school.
Do you know what you're gonna? So can I tell my audience what you're gonna call your YouTube? Or are you still?
Yeah. It's just called Brad Taylor. I think I'm gonna we haven't actually posted a video yet, so it doesn't come up on YouTube searches, but it will in the next couple of days.
So it's going to be Brad Taylor. Are you going to call it like Brad Taylor conservative voice for youth? Or...
That's in the description, but the
Okay.
actual name, is just Brad Taylor.
Okay. So if you want to find Brad, he doesn't have his YouTube video. Probably he's going to start a YouTube channel. It's going to be Brad Taylor, and put Brad Taylor conservative, and you'll at least have his speech come up, because I've already seen it. If you do that on YouTube, his speech comes up, but hopefully he'll have his channel. And that's awesome, man. I think your generation is definitely going to be kind of a revival in this country for bringing back the core principles that we were founded on. And would you say that's pretty much your goal moving forward? Do you more want to see us move towards the more conservative? I mean, you probably do. But would you rather see the schools, or do you just want to take out the partisanship in the school system? What would be more your goal?
Well, I think that it'd be kind of one-sided to then we've been spending all this time fighting the liberal agenda in school. To just switch it to a conservative agenda wouldn't really be fair. So I think it'd be better to push for partisanship, or non-partisanship, whatever that is. And then, but I mean, personally, it would be cool to see more conservative views in the schools. But I think then, considering all the liberal views that are already in the school, adding some conservative views would just kind of even everything out. But I think we have to be careful also that we don't, obviously this won't happen, but we don't push conservative views so hard that it ends up just flipping, because we don't want to do that.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I even think of people are talking about school board candidates, and a lot of times us on the political right will want someone that's hyper conservative. And I'm kind of like, well, when everyone's really liberal and you want someone hyper conservative, that's kind of a natural reaction. But I do kind of agree. I just think it should be an apolitical space, and actually apolitical people would be best. But then what ends up happening, if you keep on going left, you're going to have an overreaction to the right. And that is slippery about the slope right now, and people don't realize it, is when you keep on racializing everything and pushing ideological one spectrum, you're going to cause an overreaction by the other side. And yeah, I mean, you heard my speech. That's what I said. So since we're on the podcast and we have Brad, I'm just going to briefly outline my speech, and then we'll probably wrap up. I talked right before Brad, and I spoke specifically on comments by a school board member, Art Olson. He was elected. He's actually been a school board member for 14 years. He's up for re-election this cycle. The previous week, like Tiffany Taylor, Brad's mom, spoke, and several other mothers and grandmothers from the community spoke on issues like critical race theory, the mask mandates, when are they going to take them off, rewriting history. And at the end, Art Colson immediately spoke up very vigorously and swiftly, and he said, just want everyone out there watching that this is not happening in District 196, and these critical race theory stuff from Fox News are just Fox News talking points. It's just a bunch of malarkey. Well, I addressed that, and I said, you work for this community. You were elected by this community. Taxpayers pay for you to be in your position in this community. Taxpayers pay for this system, and they have a right to say what they don't like. And for you to just dismiss it and call it malarkey and say it's not true was false, because as Brad Taylor's just told you, it is true. And second of all, it was abdication of his responsibility as a school board member for District 196. So that's just a little outline of what I talked about. And it kind of just set the tone. I don't think they wanted the tone set. I don't think that was, but all of a sudden I spoke, and then Brad quickly goes up there and you even mentioned Art. You even mentioned
and he wasn't there, of course.
Yeah, he wasn't there. I'm sure he's maybe seen it online.
Hopefully.
I think he has. The school board, there's a big proposal, and I'm going to mention that too. They're trying to limit the open forum session, the 5 minute. we spoke for 5 minutes, both me and Brad. They're trying to eliminate that moving forward. They're saying that they want a more exclusive kind of meeting with a couple of board members. But yeah, actually, since you're on here, what do you think of that?
I see right through that. You know,
Yeah.
they talked about it in the meeting, about how their reasoning and how it was for so they could be more in depth on the issues and they could have kind of a back to back conversation. But the whole point of the open forum is that the school board can't really shut you down and people are seeing it, and that's why they record it live so that people can see it. And that's the whole point of America, is that it's free and it's, you know, tranquil. Whereas if they do it like they seemed like they tried to explain it, where it was like alone with people, I mean, if you don't agree with what they said, they can just shut you down and then lie and say they said a certain thing. So they're taking away the free speech part and the tranquility of the school board by doing that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I agree with everything you just said, and I also see, for instance, like I was going to speak on school. I said in my description of what I was going to speak on school board ethics. Art could immediately know that he was talking about me, and he decides not to show up at the meeting. Then I don't even get to talk to the person I'm trying to voice, and it's not on video. I don't know what you said you're going to talk on, but they could like start basically censoring descriptions. Like people could say curriculum, and they're like, well, let's send one person there, and it just sounds like it's another way for them not to be transparent. Mm-hmm. And you can confirm that was a pretty divided crowd there, correct?
Yes, it very much, yeah.
So probably being not transparent is probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
People weren't very happy. There was a lot of booing. They were definitely not very happy at the superintendent. She's not a popular person, I would say, by a good portion of this district. So for them to be more covert, I think would be a great mistake. Is there anything more you'd want to add that I possibly miss, or do you think you pretty much got everything covered?
I think we've got everything covered. Yeah, but we gotta just keep pushing back on the, you know, agendas they're trying to push.
I agree, man. I agree. Okay, well, this is today's episode. Once again, I said subscribe to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. Follow us on Facebook and subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. Minnesota District 57 GOP. This is Tyler Turner and Brad Taylor. Thank you for coming on, and I will be talking to you in the near future. And good luck with everything, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Hi, dude. Have a good one, man.
Thanks. You too.